Stanley Cup champion head coach of the Florida Panthers, Paul Maurice. And I know that as we do things here on Panthers Media Day, that's probably starting to get a little old hearing that title, huh?
No, we'd like it to last a year and then change, right? We don't want to hear that forever. We'd like to hear it 3 times, but it does not get old at all. You can just keep going.
You talked about how that first cup in 2024 was euphoric.
Yeah.
The second one was an achievement.
Right.
What would it feel like? I mean, I know you have to take it one step at a time, but what would it feel like to be able to do that thing that they say is so hard to achieve in sports and as a repeat?
That's the really good question that's kind of driving everybody. If you go back to the start of it, the first one was, for so many of us, we have a number of guys in our room. So Carter Verhaeghe had one in Tampa, but now he had ascended to kind of an elite position on our team. I've got Jamie Compon had 2, assistant coach, Savannah Lefebvre had won the Stanley Cup, but for all the rest of us, it's brand new. And that's the euphoria. And you wake up every morning for like 3 weeks, my wife and you'd have tears in your eyes. It's just a dream come true. And to say that next year, there was so much unknown. When are you tired, when you're not tired? Is this, they call it a Stanley Cup hangover, but really all it is this, you have a hard time finding the juice to drive. It's a full contact, fast sport. You're traveling all the time. There's a real physical cost, but you don't know as the coach, is this what they're talking about? Or is it, so are you going in the room, are you spitting nails, or are you going in there and saying, hey, now's the time just to rally, fellas, like stop the bleeding. So in any NHL season, if you spend enough time, you get the landmarks. You got a pretty good idea when you're tired, when you're not tired, when to push the team, when not to. Then you get into last year and you don't know anything. So it's all brand new. Credit to the players and the group that they have in there, that they managed that. They weathered through it. It wasn't, I'd read an article once said, Florida Panthers know how to just get through the regular season and then kind of turn it on the playoffs. This is the exact opposite of what happens. The other team brings their best then every night, and you're playing at a different level of hockey than most teams. There's so much into the emotions of this game, the motivation, the juice is what we kind of call it. That if whatever team has the juice and adheres to the core values of hockey, who plays the hardest, who hits the hardest, who skates the hardest, that team wins on any night. And if you don't have that juice, you got to find a different way to do it. And that was that learning experience last year. We go back into this year, come into camp. The biggest thing I think that has happened to us is that we were able to keep that team together. And it just doesn't happen. And the only reason that happened is we probably got 8 or 9 guys now here who are taking less money to play here. And that just doesn't happen in pro sports. So now we get to keep, when you look at those 3 guys that were up for contract, they're not just great players. They're considered character hard men in the league. So that makes them the most coveted players. When you think about the league, the teams that didn't win are looking at those guys as the piece to put them over the top. The teams in the middle are looking at the guys that help form their young players, and they make the great leap forward into that contending status. And the teams at the bottom are looking at the piece that is the character piece to be the model for their team. So everybody in the league wants them.
Yeah.
But they stay here, and they take less to stay here because they have, and this is a Bill Zito operation, in that he built a team where compensation is beyond the financial. So there's more to this. It's your family, it's the lifestyle, it's how you're treated, it's how you move around the room, so you get a guy that walks in there, the families want to stay, the player wants to stay. So then we get this kind of unusual event that we get to keep these guys. So now we come into this year, and it's not going to be kind of, each year is its own separate life. This is a brand new kind of life that we've got to do all the hard things and build all the things. Last year has nothing to do with what we'll do this year, except we think we got a pretty good team and we've learned some things. And that might be, it's not the talent kind of that pushes you forward. It's the learned, shared experiences through adversity. When it hits again, it's not as dangerous anymore. You've been through it. You've played games 2 or 3 guys out. You've played games back to back. You've traveled all over the place. You're beaten, but you still got to be good. And they've learned how to do that.
I mean, you talk about guys, playing shorthanded, maybe potentially having guys out. One of the most important pieces of the Panthers puzzle over this run has been Matthew Tkachuk. What have the conversations been like with him? His health coming off the surgery?
The surgery went well. We're going to know probably in about a month what the final timeline looks like, because this first kind of bit of healing will tell you how long it's going to be out. It's going to be long term. I mean, he's going to be into the mid part of the season, I think, before we see them. We did it last year, kind of after the Four Nations, but we also lost Aaron Ekblad at that point in time. So we had a bunch of pieces out. We kind of won some games, lost some games, but it's going to be a grinder without him. We're going to miss him. And he's such a critical part to what we do. But maybe there's your adversity. You go back to the first year we won the Stanley Cup. We started the season without Ekblad and out on tour the first 20 games, right? And everybody thought, well, these guys are done. They went to the final, which is a great run in the league. Like, you go to the final, you get to talk about that for 4 or 5 years, even if you don't win. We lose those 2 defensemen, but we found a way to come out and be just as good. And what it did was it forced us to play a little tighter game, which made us, it was probably that adversity right there might be the driver of why we won the Stanley Cup, right? We learned how to play differently.
Yes.
And then we're going to have a key piece out of our lineup again, and we're going to have to learn how to play a little differently to do it.
It pushes you as a coach, right? Gives you a new challenge to get the guys together and get them galvanized. I'm curious for you, though, how thirsty are you for that journey to restart, that hunt, that chase all over again? Because I'm sure the offseason is nice when you're the reigning Cup champion.
Yeah.
It's got to feel even better to be restarting that journey to get it again.
There's a bunch of things to go into it. And I'm just, I'm being honest about the conversations I've had with other coaches and the players as they come back here. We all kind of feel way better rested this year than we did last year.
How?
Because last year, again, to go back to it, it was this euphoric, and it's not that you're partying, it's mentally, you're just on a high. Mm-hmm. And then it wears off and the season starts and it's, oh my God, I got 82 games ahead of me, right? And I'm talking about from a player's point of view. But here, the season was over, like it ends on a Tuesday, and the parade's on a Sunday and everybody's gone. So you really don't see anybody after that. But we ended the season 1 week earlier, and you're going to see today when we get these guys on the ice, the veteran players won't hit the ice today. So we pushed them back a week to let them train and more. So we've actually built 2 more weeks of training into their schedule. We run a really hard camp here. And as soon as these guys hit the ice on day 1 for them, they're not individually training anymore. They can't. They just got to survive practice. So we needed to help them train longer, and they've done that. They look great. So I think what I'm feeling, and in talking to the coaches, you feel a tremendous amount of responsibility in that this is a good team, and they've done all the things that you've asked them to do. So you need to come to work right? Like you need to come on your game and make sure you're pushing and make sure we're working and kind of lead in that department, and that this is a good team. And I got a tremendous amount of respect for these men. So we're not talking, this isn't a reunion. We're not having a reunion this year from our Cup one last year. This is its own separate life, and we have to maximize what we can do.
Paul Maurice here, the Stanley Cup champion, head coach, 2-time defending, looking for that third with the Florida Panthers. And we're proud here in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast to be announcing that we will be an affiliate this year.
Awesome.
We'll be along with y'all for the whole journey. Would you think about how this thing has been expanding over the past few years? Obviously, it's the fruits of y'all's labor, but how grateful are you for how much people have been buying in on this experience and the culture and the family y'all built?
Well, I just feel like the fans here, have come along, right? I don't feel that they just showed up. I was just in the league in 95, so I remember kind of the starting years of Florida down here and the different rinks they played in and all of that. And then, I showed up right when the team was really good, so I don't have a whole lot to do with the building. But there's 10 years, right, before we get to the final, that they worked really, really hard. Since Mr. Viola took over this team, I put a tremendous amount of investment into this team. And it takes a while. You don't get the payoff in year 1. It feels like we just arrived, but they put 10 years into building this team. And then Bill Zito comes in, and that, when everything was almost right, that's the most important, I think, inflection point for our franchise is Bill Zito comes in. And then Bill does this great job of finding these kind of people that maybe fit here differently than they fit somewhere else, and the coaches included, right? The players, he went out and found a bunch of people, and he kind of thought they would work together, and it turned out we've been all right. And then we're here now. Like, this is an incredible facility. So we moved into this facility, I think, December 23rd, the year we went to the final. And from that point on, since we came to this building, our team has taken off. We won 9 straight coming out of that. Now, we weren't in here the entire, but we won 9 straight games. And that's when, like, in our own room, we went, well, this is pretty good here.
Yeah.
Right? The guys are walking around going, we got a really good team. But we hadn't been to the final then, right? Matter of fact, we were grinding at that point. But you walk in and everything seemed to change. It's an incredible facility. The fans are here, they watch practices and interaction with the group. The building's full now, so it feels like we've all moved together. The fans and this team all kind of paid their price for 10 years, and then everything just took off.
I'm curious because obviously as we grow and evolve, things change. You're now the Florida Panthers head coach. You grew up an Edmonton Oilers fan. Would 10-year-old Paul Maurice hate 58-year-old Paul Maurice?
You know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little bit fickle back then.
Yeah.
So it starts, I'm a Montreal Canadian fan because that's the only games we've got on TV. So when I'm 5, that's who I am.
Okay.
When I'm 15, yeah, you're an Oilers fan because they win 4 or 5 Stanley Cup. That was not too hard, right? You got Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Paul Coffey. I watched they have these games on NHL.com. We were watching them yesterday. So I kind of moved around a little bit. The allegiance, maybe it wasn't as strong to any one team. I'm a Panther fan now, and I have no problem switching allegiances. I'm full on here. And then when you have an opportunity and you make a little bit of hockey history and winning 2 in a row with a group of guys, then your heart will always be here.
How are you received back home? Because you're also part of the reason why
you know what?
It's been a drought.
Well, good. Mom and dad are real happy with me. That worked out all right. And then but what you'll get is a really congratulations, really happy that won. I was cheering for you, Paul, but I'm an Irish fan, just so we're clear. So there's a line that goes on that border. And the only people probably cheering for the Florida Panthers in Canada were the people in Calgary. So there's the great rivalry. It's right. They're conflicted. Canadian team, got to support my country. Really don't want Edmonton to win. So we're probably aligned a little bit to the Calgary Flames fan base.
You gotta love that, right? My greatest maybe sometimes friend is the enemy of my enemy.
Right. Well, the roots there, and you're going to see it here. So we have these great learn to skate programs here. The roots in Canada are from the time you're kind of old enough, boys and girls, they learn how to skate and you play hockey. It's because everything's frozen up there, so it's really easy to do, right? And then down here, that's what you'll start to see. And you've seen it wherever an NHL team goes into a non-traditional market. Kids, especially if the team has success, there's going to be kids now in our area that want to play hockey. They want to be Matthew Tkachuk. They want to be these guys. And then what they need are access to rinks. Because it's not as easy as going to a ballpark and playing on a dime. You can play baseball on a beach if you want to. You can play a game, but hockey's specific. You can rollerblade, which is an awesome way into our sport. We actually have a rink outside here that you can do it on. You see some kids out there, but you're kind of starting to see it grow. So that's really cool. And then we've got these great learn to skate programs here and at the Ice Den. And that's where a franchise starts to fill its building every night, even in some lean years. When we get kids that come at 5 years old and they learn to skate and they play on hockey, now they're 10 and they're 15, they're still hockey fans. And that's what I love this place, right? Clearly I can't stop talking about it. I live about 2 blocks from it. Spend a lot of time here. This is a great thing for the people of South Florida, for the people in our area. We got beautiful facility, 2 rinks, an outdoor skating pad. This is truly how a franchise grows.
Does that almost feel like a great achievement in and of itself? The Stanley Cup's what matter because that's what you're working towards every day. But if you look 10, 12, 15 years from now and you find out that South Florida became more of a hockey town, there's more kids born and raised here that become NHL players, you done a good job.
For sure. And here's what's cool about all of this. The coolest part possibly about all this. Now, I don't want to try to use too much hyperbole here. I'm pretty happy we won Stanley Cups personally, right? I'm happy about that. But the great stories are, what's going to happen is there's, pick an age of a kid, somewhere between 5 and 8 years old, and they were at that game. Or they watched that game, Game 6, Game 7 against Edmonton, and there's a shared family memory. Now, where it gets awesome is, like in my family last year, my daughter baked a cake on every game day. So that's a lot of cakes, right? So there's a lot of cooking going on. She's incredible at it too. She decorates them. But there's a family story, right? Like there's the one guy in your family that you lose every time he comes over. So he's not invited anymore. So he's got to stay at his own place, but you got 12 other people that get together. And if grandma wears the certain dress and grandpa wears the certain shirt, we win. And they've got their connection to our team, right? There's a million superstitions by Florida Panther fans out there, and they're all awesome to hear. That's what I find is the coolest part about this. You run into somebody, and they'll tell you a story where they think that you might think they're crazy. I know this sounds crazy, Paul, but right, the dog had to be in the back room every time they scored. Uncle Bill wasn't allowed in the building. Everybody's got they say I got my chair that I sit in. I never lost it. I've got a friend that happened to be in Europe when we're playing. Right, it's 3:00 in the morning, and they're sitting out watching the game on their phone. So everybody's got a story, and they think they're crazy, but my family's got them too, right? My daughter's baking a cake every kid. My youngest, who's with us now, it wasn't allowed in the main room. You had to watch from upstairs. You know, you hear them screaming from different parts of the house, I guess, when they'd win a game. My wife's got a million superstitions. That's the great stories of here. And then when you can get like grandparents, parents, and a kid that are all tied to that, they get to keep that memory for the rest of their lives. And that's how you build fans.
We had that happen here with ESPN Radio and ESPN West Palm. One of our guys, Jonathan Zaslow, cut his family vacation short.
There you go.
Because when he was at home, y'all were winning. When he got hit the road, y'all got a couple of losses there.
And okay. So first of all, what was his name?
Jonathan Zaslow.
Will you tell Jonathan I said hello and thank you very much for that, because this all weaves together. So great story. We get up 3-0. So this is true of the Maurice family too. We get up 3-0 at Edmonton 2 years ago. My daughter's in for the game because in game 4, she goes to Edmonton. We lose. She flies back to Florida. We lose game 5. She sticks around and she's going to wait. And we lose game 6. She gets on an airplane and flies because she can't be here game 7.
She didn't want to be.
She couldn't. She's the reason we're losing. So she left. And then she doesn't tell anybody because it's more about people knowing that she's coming. So her now fiance says, on the day of game 7, you have to be there, win or lose, for your dad. So she gets on a plane and is flying, right? So, and I try not to tear up. I love this story. Anyway, the plane is landing as the game is ending here. And so this is out of Toronto, right? The flight's out of Toronto. There's not a lot of Florida people on there. Be more likely to be Canadians. So and the pilot's given the score. Here I go, Chip. We win the game, and the pilot comes on and says to Florida Panthers, we still have the game to win. My daughter loses it in the front of like screaming, bawling her eyes out. Everybody in the plane, what's wrong? My dad just won the Stanley Cup. So, okay, we get on the ice, and there's a ton of media, and I know my wife and my 2 boys are on the ice. So after I'm looking for them, and as I'm walking there, I'm going, I just told my daughter's not here. Like, you know, I mean, it's been 30 years. I've moved, that girl went to 3 different high schools, right? That's like child abuse for a girl, 3 different high schools. Okay, can't believe my daughter's not here. She turned around the corner and she was like, awesome. Yeah, like I'm cheering up too. Okay, so those are Stanley Cup stories. Man. Those are the things that she didn't tell anybody, and it was awesome.
How'd you get security that quick?
Well, it turned out at that point, if you said your dad was the coach, they kind of help you out. So there's some small benefits, right, of winning, right? So your daughter gets to the game. So those are the best family Stanley Cup stories. It's what will bind us all together, whether you're a fan that's been to a handful of games, whatever it is. When your kids get attached to it, then I think we've got something really special.
And speaking of special, we can kind of wrap it with this. Just everybody knows the winning, everybody knows the stories of the Stanley Cup runs and all of that, but what we don't realize is just how tight-knit everybody in this locker room is, and it feels like people become family 2 weeks in. Like Brad Marchand just showed up, and in 3 weeks in, he's got to deal with Dairy Queen, and he's got everybody showing up. But how in the world, and unless your job is a coach, but how do you get so many people from different walks of life, different areas, different hockey backgrounds to walk into one building and then all become?
So there has to be something that binds them. There has to be something that they all agree upon. And that for us, it starts with our first 5 days of training camp. They're very hard, and they all work hard. So there's the great question. How do you get Sasha Barkov in some way to be the same as your 13th forward? Because we don't pay him the same. I mean, and there's a reason for that. He's rightfully paid. How do you do that? And that is, you have to have certain things that you will do as a team, that it doesn't matter who you are. And really, that's kind of my job, right? Decide they have to be the right things. It can't be, everybody's like, I haven't chased a guy around for being late for a meeting. First of all, it never happens. Like, everybody is a great pro. They show up. And so if there's an aberration in your day, a guy's a little late for a meeting, we laugh about it, right? We give him a hard time. The guys probably make him buy dinner or whatever. But in terms of very hard things, on the ice that we have to sacrifice for each other. There are 4 or 5 things that aren't negotiable. But that's not me being you gotta pick the right, you can't swear on that. I'm not being a hard guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. I'm just saying these are the things that we have to do. The players have all looked around and said, yes, we agree with that. We'll do those things. And that's all I do is monitor those 4 or 5 hard things. So that's how you can get a guy from Finland and you can get a guy from the US and somebody with completely different styles of game and completely different talents. We don't want them to be all alike. We want a tremendous amount of diversity in style and of people and of personalities. The more, the better. But on these things, we don't bend. And everybody accepts that. And that's how we measure our game. Were we good last night? Were we good in these 4 or 5 things? Now, there's clearly more to the game than 4 or 5 things. There's always little things we're working on. But there's a handful of things that we want to do. And the things that when we do them, we're really, really good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we connect everybody together.
Looking forward to growing and watching with this connection, especially at ESPN West Palm, is now we're an affiliate. So
it'd be great. It's good to have you. Congratulations. And just make sure you give him a handshake and say thank you to the lad that left his vacation.
Yes.
There's a guy who understands. That guy is a pro sports guy. And you know what? He's an amateur sports guy too, right? That's the guy that when he loses his men's league game, basketball game, goes home and he won't talk to anybody for a day. That man gets sports.
Yes.
All right.
If anybody gets it, Jonathan Zaslow gets it.
All right. Well, we got to get him in here.
Yes. So, Paul,
all right. My
thank
pleasure.
you so much for your time, man. And good luck at training camp.
Welcome.